Good morning from the slopes of Mount of the Holy Cross. Obviously today going to be hiking Mount of the Holy Cross via the Halo Ridge. So just been hiking in the dark for a bit here and waiting for the sun to rise. Instead of blinding myself to get some footage, I'll check in with you guys in a little bit when the sun has come up. Now that the sun is finally up, let's talk about Mount of the Holy Cross a little bit. The standard route would be to take the northwest slopes, I believe the direction is. But today I'm going to be taking Halo Ridge, which is becoming more popular. It's class 2. It's about 13.5 miles long, and I'm going to descend the standard way, so it's going to be about 5,200 feet of elevation gain. The reason I'm taking this today is I've already done the other route, and this way you tackle another centennial. It's either called Holy Cross Ridge, I believe, or 0.382 something. In any case, it is a centennial. Just been hiking along the Fall Creek trail here. It's been really straightforward and just about 2 miles in at this point. Just about 2.3 miles in, you'll reach this trail junction on your right, and you're going to want to continue up towards Notch Mountain. Seem to be waking everybody up on this hike. First a couple of grouse and now that deer. Still early for these guys. Man, it's just so peaceful up here this morning. All the animals seem to just be at home. Group of grouse up there. What a beautiful morning. So kind of in the upper slopes now. Eventually you're gonna just switch back our way up to that point and then head over to the Notch Mountain summit and the Notch Mountain shelter. Just been cruising these switchbacks to get to the first saddle up here. I gotta say, gained about 2,300 feet of elevation, but this trail is pretty mellow, all things considered. There are a ton, as you might be able to see, switchbacks, but none of them are steep at all. Finally on the saddle, aka the Halo Ridge. There's a shelter here, I'll show you in a sec. You got some awesome views of Holy Cross behind me, and then of course the ridge you're going to take over to Holy Cross. When we get to the summit of Holy Cross, we'll be taking the standard route down, which just goes down the right side there. Inside Notch Mountain shelter here, so you can't actually camp up here, and it's also obviously like a lightning shelter. Pretty cool spot, pretty unique. Little fireplace. And look at your views out the window here. As we're leaving the shelter here behind me, we will now be officially off trail the rest of the way. Still have about 2.5-2-ish miles to the summit of Mount of the Holy Cross. And this is where you officially start hiking on the Halo Ridge. It is class 2, even though it looks very gnarly from here, and should be pretty straightforward, just because you're basically just staying to the high point of the ridge. Initial thoughts as I'm working my way up to some of the 13ers along this ridge is that there's a lot of loose rock, and it doesn't discriminate by size. There's obviously some smaller stuff that rolls when you step on it, but there's also some crazy big stuff too. So I'm going to be putting my hiking poles away here in a second, just so I can have some more stability and focus on the rock underneath me instead of where I'm putting my poles. Summit of 13248, which is the name of the mountain. It's a 13er. From here, gonna continue a bit, descend down to a nice grassy kind of slope, and then make my way up to it's another 13er that's unranked, and then that's the Centennial. Next up, gonna lose a couple hundred feet here, get down to the next saddle, and then start your climb up the unofficial 13er. My advice would be get to the right so you can get on this grass as soon as possible. It'll just make your travel a lot more consistent and quicker. Absolutely gorgeous. I believe that's the Bowl of Tears. I've never seen that before because the other approach doesn't give you that view. And I don't think you can see it on the summit either. Friggin' beautiful. Next up, we got this gnarly looking thing, but again, doesn't exceed class 2. Here's a look at what conditions you'll be climbing up. This is definitely higher class 2 for sure. The rocks seem somewhat stable in here, but there's definitely going to be loose stuff just based on how everything's going. So be careful. These are some pretty big rocks. Here's my foot, put things in perspective. You do want to stay a little bit left when you're climbing here. If you go too far right, you'll be cliffing out a bunch. Looking back, I started, I think, right on that point. A little smoky, not too bad though. You can see if you had gone too far right where you kind of end up. So again, from the saddle, just like that. Man, this hike is just loaded with beautiful high alpine lakes. This is near the summit of the second 13er here. Absolutely beautiful. Summit of the second 13er. This one is unofficial, as I mentioned. I can't get over the views of that lake down there. Just so pretty. Next up, we're gonna go to Holy Cross Ridge, IE 1383 something or other, and that is a Centennial. And then, of course, finishing up to Holy Cross. At the base of Holy Cross Ridge now, the last 13er before the summit of Mount of the Holy Cross. I'm just gonna kind of take a direct line. That's a false summit, but the real one's right through there. This whole area is like if you took a bunch of rocks in your hand and dropped them on a mound. That's the consistency of them, but they're obviously much bigger than anything you could ever fit in your hand. A little bit of a down climb and then working up to the true summit. The one behind me is a false one, and I think there might be another false one. This is what's in front of me here, so I'm not sure if this is true or false. We will see in a couple minutes. And it was false. You can kind of stay lower here and basically avoid some of these false summits. I'm kind of too far up, so once you get to these points here, you can kind of stay farther left and avoid some unnecessary gain. There seems to be a million freaking false summits on this thing, but I am, I think, on the last false summit, sticking to this right side here. Looks like higher class 2, some exposure, and just more direct. All right, summit of Holy Cross Ridge. That's the Centennial, 13.6 something. Just about 8 miles from car to here. Took me about 4 hours of moving time, and yeah, the views are great. I'm not going to stay long, but next up we got Mount of the Holy Cross. You got Snowmass and Capitol down there, Maroon Bells, Pyramid, Castle and Conundrum. Just beautiful. To begin the descent here, you're going to want to hang left, otherwise you will be really nastily cliffed out. Holy shit. While I'm making my way over to Mount of the Holy Cross, let's talk about gear for this hike. I'll link what to pack for any 14er, my video for that, in the description below. Really, this one's pretty simple though, and on top of that you can just grab some hiking boots or trail runners. I'd definitely recommend some hiking poles because you'll get some pretty good elevation on the way down, going back up as well, if that makes sense. So there's rollers essentially. For a complete list of all the gear I've used in this hike today, you can check the links in the description below to help support the channel. Looking back, that's the Centennial there, and then all the way over, and then out of sight. Mount of the Holy Cross right behind me. Whew, that was a long traverse. You can stick left, then you'll have to end up going right. It's just try to stay right as much as you can and know that you're going to get cliffed out eventually, but that's probably the most direct route in traversing this. As we get closer to the summit, let's talk about dogs on this hike. Since this is a wilderness area, dogs should be leashed, but definitely dog friendly. If your dog has, you know, seasoned paws in the mountains. Class 2 is definitely a lot of boulder hopping on this one, so have them be comfortable with that. Personally, definitely could have brought Juno today, but I'm on a time crunch since it's my anniversary and trying to move quickly, which is not going well so far, and she usually slows things down quite a bit. Just when you think the scrambling will never end, you will be transported to the very flat summit of Mount of the Holy Cross. Heading down Mount of the Holy Cross, I couldn't film anything on the summit because the audio would have been terrible because this one guy just wouldn't shut the hell up.
When you're coming all the way, like this way you approach it, but like me and him, looks like it's much nicer. Cross. I'm probably done, man. I don't have what it takes to finish the route. The navigation's so hard. Like I came in by itself, and I did La Plata and Elbert by itself, and Holy Cross by itself.
No disrespect if that was you, but man, take a pause every once in a while. Moving down now, and going down the standard route, so much, as I almost die, should be much quicker. As you start working your way down Holy Cross, this is what you'll see, and you want to just stay right here. I'm going to give kind of reverse directions in case you're not going up Halo Ridge. So once you're here, you're just going to kind of go right. right there, and then work on the other side of that shoulder up to the summit of Mount of the Holy Cross. The hike up is straightforward, but like I mentioned earlier, you are going to have elevation loss and then regain. Same with the way down. So right now I'm about 4,400 feet of gain on the day, and I will probably end closer to 52, 53, something like that. Once you're down to this point, kind of towards the beginning of the ridge, your route out is going to be there, and then the parking is right on the other side. So as you can see, this is a pretty big hill that you'll get down to, have a flat, and then have to regain that. Since I've already done both routes, and it's been a while since I've done the standard route of Holy Cross, but remember it pretty well. The Halo Ridge, sure, it has a lot more loose rock, but I think overall it's more fun. Definitely some higher class 2 stuff with exposure, maybe even low 3 if you really search for it. And just the lakes over there are beautiful. Plus the crowds will usually be a bit less on that side as well, although like I said, it is becoming more popular of a loop. Trying my best to jog this trail, but it's kind of tough because the conditions are not great. But finally on the dirt, and just heading down into the trees, and then gonna take a little bit descent down this hill, and then eventually gonna bang a right. Just a couple miles off the summit now, and this is where you'll start to see little signs for the designated campsites, and I think there's 10 of them because I just saw 10, so that would make sense. I believe they're first come first serve. These are what you're looking for with a little side trail here. For more information about camping on Mount of the Holy Cross, you can check the full trail guide. As always, I'll have every note about camping for this one. Right after you cross that water source, you're gonna have some uphill, and like I said, you get into probably about 800-ish feet before you descend again to the parking lot. Whew. Man, I forgot how hard that was. It's a lot of gain. So up the initial hill, but do have some more gain still before the downhill march to the car arrives. Okay, just leaving Half Moon Pass. From here to the car is another 1.5 miles or so, and should be mostly downhill. Thank God. So my elevation gain for the day is about 5,400 feet. Right now, I'm just shy of 13 miles, so should be about 14.5 with 5,400 feet of elevation gain to do the Halo Ridge and standard routes of Mount of the Holy Cross. Man, another nice jog down from the Half Moon Pass, just about the trailhead now. So I'm gonna wrap up this video of Mount of the Holy Cross via the Halo Ridge and down the standard route north slopes. For a full trail guide and more information about this hike, you can go ahead and check the link in the description below. If you're new to my channel, I do virtual trail guides here in Colorado and beyond, so go ahead and hit that like button if you found this video helpful, and hit that subscribe button not to miss any future hike related content. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure, which I might be a trail runner guy now. Watch out, world.